Dr. Salman is the chief editor of a web discussion forum. It's called Islam in the 21st Century. It gets 100,000 visitors a month.
My name is Salman.
The Home Office claimed he used it to violate British values and so has named him as a non-violent extremist.
We're going to introduce new, narrowly targeted powers to enable us to deal with these facilitators and cult leaders and to stop them peddling their hatred.
When launching his extremism task force last year, David Cameron sought to bar what he termed hate preachers from college campuses.
Now, of course, universities are bastions of free speech and incubators of new and challenging ideas. But sometimes they fail to see the creeping extremism on their campuses.
Dr. Butt was one of 6 speakers named in a Downing Street press release that week who it was suggested should be banned.
I saw a few texts on my phone saying, look at this link. So I read it and I was shocked to find my name there. All the different news websites had picked up the story. One of them used my picture, so I knew it was me. When that happened, I literally didn't know why.
The reasons why came months later in a Home Office parliamentary answer, when Dr. Butt was accused of having views contrary to British values, like on homosexuality.
What's your view on homosexuality?
Well, the act of homosexuality is sinful, but we don't apply, labels or some kind of oppression towards somebody who has, same-sex attraction and so forth.
But isn't gay marriage now a British value?
I don't know. I mean, my view is this. If it is a British value, according to some, then those who disagree should not be labelled extremists. And if one is to label those who disagree as an extremist, it should be equal across the board. So if a Christian disagrees with that, call him an extremist as well. If a Jew or a Hindu or whoever. Half of the Tory party, for example, voted against gay marriage. So I just want fairness.
There is, too, the accusation he shared not just a platform with, but also the views of the Islamic advocacy group Cage on subjects like Jihadi John.
I support Cage in everything they do that I've seen so far in terms of holding the government, security services, the police to account. And I think their statements vis-à-vis Jihadi John or Mohammed Mwazi were grossly taken out of context by people.
The information on Dr. Butt was supplied by a right-wing think tank called the Henry Jackson Society to the government's shadowy extremism analysis unit. It was set up to gather and disseminate across Whitehall details of those deemed a risk. Dr. Butt's efforts to access those records were met with a brick wall.
They combed through my entire online life, social media, articles, blog posts, everything, to try and justify this accusation. My aim for this case is to force the decisions that the government makes in private about who is labelled as an extremist to come out and see the transparency and the scrutiny of the courts. I want people who have been labelled with this smear of extremism to actually be able to tell why it is they are labelled as extremists.
And there lies the core of his case. It's the first legal challenge to the government's use of the term extremism, how it's applied, where it's directed, and who it applies to, in the 5 years of the Prevent Anti-Radicalisation programme.